Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down the 7-game NBA DFS slate on DraftKings. Before we get into it, if you do enjoy the content at any point in this video, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, I would greatly appreciate that. Recently just reached 500 subscribers, so thank you to everyone that has supported so far. And I will be here all NBA season long breaking down these NBA DFS slates to help you guys become better NBA DFS players. And I am also covering MLB content, so if you are an MLB DFS player as well, look for some videos to be coming out daily as well covering MLB. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down this NBA DFS slate today. First game on the slate, we got New York taking on Brooklyn. This game right now comes in with a 216.5 over-under with a 5.5 point spread in favor of the Brooklyn Nets. So expect it to be a very slow-paced game, especially when the Brooklyn Nets are involved. That's very slow-paced. James Harden currently listed as questionable. Kevin Durant also listed as questionable. So definitely some big news to be keeping your eye on this slate today. Let's see. James Harden's been out for 2 straight games, with a hamstring injury, and then Kevin Durant's most recent update is saying he's doubtful for Monday. So James Harden, right now, I have him listed as out in my projections. We'll keep an eye on that one as we continue on the slate. Of course, if James Harden's out, Kyrie Irving becomes a tremendous play at 10K. He's going to get a lot more usage, a ton of shots volume. Recently putting up 46 and 54 DraftKings points the last 2 times out. And I think he has even more room for more upside than that if he gets hot. Of course, this isn't the fastest-paced game in the world, as far as the rest of the slate's concerned. There's going to be a lot of other better, faster-paced games. But if you take out James Harden, the fact that Kyrie is just going to have so much more responsibility, he does make a lot of sense, even though it's going to be a slower-paced game. On the New York side, they get a great matchup taking on Brooklyn. I think that they have a much better outlook on things in the Brooklyn side because Brooklyn always plays fast. New York a little bit of a slower pace team. So Julius Randle at 9.6 definitely going to get a pace bump, as well as some usage and more opportunities, as well as RJ Barrett and all these New York guys really. Alec Burks at 5.5. I mean, RJ Barrett and Julius Randle continue to be the top dogs, getting the most minutes, the most usage overall. But we all know what Alec Burks is capable of at 5.5 if he gets the run. The problem is New York is starting to get healthy, and he's not really getting the run anymore. You got Alec Burks, Derrick Rose, Reggie Bullock, Alfred Payton, Nerlens Noel. The rotation's starting to get really, really tight here. So I'm a little concerned as far as that's concerned. Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, I feel a lot better about than these other guys. And then on the Brooklyn side, you can look to guys like Joe Harris, LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin also. They're going to be getting a lot more usage if these guys are out. LaMarcus Aldridge priced at 5.6 at the center position as far as his role with Brooklyn recently, playing on the 4th, playing 26 minutes or so. So, all these guys are going to become much more viable plays if there is no James Harden. But overall, slow-paced game, not really going to be all too excited about going there. Second game on the slate, we got Luca Doncic taking on the Utah Jazz. So Dallas taking on Utah, 5.5 point spread in favor of the Utah Jazz. It's a 226.5 over/under, much better game already in this one than the game we just discussed. Kristaps Porzingis is listed as questionable, so keep an eye on his status. If he's out, of course, that's going to give a bit of a bump up to some of the other bigs in the Dallas rotation, and some of the wings overall. A guy like a Tim Hardaway Jr., a guy like a Jalen Brunson, they become much more viable plays as well in this one. So, keep an eye on that one. Then, of course, Luka Doncic, is the biggest beneficiary at 10.8. He's going to be the one that's getting the biggest bump up if there is no Kristaps Porzingis. He becomes a usage beast, and they're going to need him to stay in this game if there is no Kristaps, so he becomes a very top play on the slate for me. And then on the Utah side, we have Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley starting to get priced up a little bit more. All these guys getting priced up. Mike Conley, Jordan Clarkson, Joe Ingles. Typically, I am one to say play these guys because they're a little bit cheaper and they can get you there at their price tags. But it's starting to get to the point of where they're priced up enough to where, it's not quite as much of a discount to get to them, honestly. Jordan Clarkson, all these guys were priced in the 5K range at one point. Now they're up to the mid 6K to 7K range. So I do think that DraftKings is starting to adjust for this Utah side. So I feel a little bit more comfortable maybe even playing a Donovan Mitchell and a Rudy Gobert in a closer pace game than playing the mid-range for those guys. So I have no issue with playing Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert. Specifically, Rudy Gobert, I think could have a really big game in this one because I don't think the Dallas side has really anyone to stop him down low, especially if Kristaps is out. Game could go small, so you could get limited in minutes as well. So you got to pick which side of the fence you're on and run with it there. Washington taking on Toronto. This game comes with a 228.5 over/under with a 5-point spread in favor of the Toronto Raptors. Decently paced game as far as the recent updates, as far as injuries concerned. Lots of questionable tags in this one. Bradley Beal is listed as questionable. Fred VanVleet is listed as questionable. Rui Hachimura is listed as questionable. Fred VanVleet got out on Friday's game and didn't return, so, you know, that's going to give a bump up to the other guards in the rotation. Rui Hachimura listed as questionable. That's going to give a bump up to a guy like Chandler Hutchison and Isaac Bonga. But Fred VanVleet, I mean, if he's out, that's pretty big news. They already are without Kyle Lowry, so you're going to be looking to guys like Malachi Flynn and Gary Trent to get more usage overall. Specifically Pascal Siakam. I mean, this is a great matchup taking on this Washington squad. Pascal Siakam, a guy I've been very high on recently. Last game up, putting at 58 DraftKings points. He's just going to get even more usage. OG Anunoby is going to get more usage. Gary Trent Jr., Chris Boucher. All four of those guys become much better plays if there is indeed no Fred VanVleet in this one. I think they're going to be relied on very heavily. Specifically, Gary Trent Jr. at only 6'6". I think his usage will skyrocket. And he's already put up 32, 40, and 40 DraftKings points the last 3 times out. So I'd look for him to continue it and possibly even be able to put up more DraftKings points at that price tag. And then I mentioned Flynn down here at 3.5. He could probably get some more run as well. Playing 31 minutes last time out, putting up 33 DraftKings points. Could be looking to play him at 3.5. And yeah, that's who I'll be looking to in this one, depending upon injury news. And then, of course, Russell Westbrook becomes a tremendous play if there is no Bradley Beal. Already is a great play, but he's priced up to 11-1. He's priced as if there is no Beal. So if Beal comes back, it's a little bit scary to be going there. But if there is no Beal, you know, no issues with you paying up for Russ whatsoever. Cleveland taking on San Antonio. This game right now comes in with a 9.5 point spread in favor of the San Antonio Spurs. It's a 215.5 over under, so it's going to be a slower pace game. San Antonio is expected to win this one fairly easily, and so that's going to be a little bit scary as far as playing anyone in this one. Jared Allen, Larry Nance Jr. listed as questionable. You know, Colin Sexton, Darius Garland continue to be the top 2 plays on the Cleveland side as far as usage is concerned. Specifically, Colin Sexton, you know, he's one of the only guys I feel really comfortable going to. Kevin Love at 5.7 was a guy I was interested to see his minutes because if he gets, you know, a decent amount of minutes, he can really crush at that price tag. Was only 5.3 last time out, put up 33 DraftKings points. So if he continues to see his minutes climb, he played 20 and then 23. So maybe he plays like 25 in this one. So maybe a decent play to play some Kevin Love. He has some upside in tournaments. And there continues to be no Lonnie Walker on the San Antonio side. So guys like Rudy Gay, Keldon Johnson could get some more minutes. But really, it's Derek White, it's Jakob Poeltl, it's DeJounte Murray, and it's DeMar DeRozan. 4 guys at the top continue to be great plays. Specifically, Derek White at 6'3". Underpriced for his role, so I like him quite a bit in this matchup. The other guys paying up for in this game where they might not even be worried about playing them all too many minutes because they should beat Cleveland fairly easily. Maybe you can play a Derek White fade like a DeJounte Murray and a DeMar DeRozan. Or vice versa, play the top guys and fade him and just say that they're going to have the big game, make sure that their team wins, and head out. So that would be my 2 approaches there. Detroit taking on Oklahoma City. This game right now comes in with a 212.5 over under with a 3-point spread in favor of the Detroit Pistons. Expect to be a very slow-paced game again. You know, I had mentioned there's some really good games, fantasy games on this slate, and some really bad ones. Here's another bad one. I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Al Horford, Darius Bazley listed as questionable, Isaiah Roby, Lou Dort listed as questionable. So continuing to be out. If those guys are, we could play Pak Kuzevsky on Oklahoma City. We could play Svi Mikhailuk. These guys are going to get a bunch of minutes, a bunch of usage. If guys like Dort and Bazley are back, you can, of course, play them, but I have a feeling they're going to be somewhat limited when they come back, and that's just going to make the rotation a little bit less predictable. Moses Brown at 7-1 continues to produce at a very high rate, so he is priced up for it, though. I mean, 13 and 28 DraftKings points the last 2 times out. Oklahoma City just getting blown out because their whole team's hurt, and they're just not good. So it needs to be a close game, which this one's expected to be, really. Looking at the spread, it's only a 3-point spread. So I do think that Moses Brown could bounce back and have another big game like he was before. On Detroit, it's Jeremiah Grant, it's Mason Plumlee on the top options, but they're kind of getting like mid-minutes as well with these blowouts, so maybe they finally get involved in a close game. Most specifically, I think Diallo could get some more run in this one because he's taking on his former team, and coaches just tend to do that. They got Diallo from Oklahoma City. Now he's in Detroit. He's played 27, 26 minutes, 2 out of the last 3. He put up 43 and 36 DraftKings points. We know what this guy's capable of when he gets minutes. And I have a feeling he's going to get a lot of minutes in this one. So I do think Diallo is kind of a sneaky play. And honestly, I'm going to be very high on him in this one. Next game, finally a good game we could talk about. Sacramento taking on Minnesota. Going to be the best game on the slate by far from a fantasy point aspect. Expect to be a very fast-paced game. 236.5 over-under with a 3-point spread in favor of the Sacramento Kings. Expected to stay close. Expect to be very fast-paced, and I'm going to have a lot of interest in every single guy in this game practically. Karl-Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell is listed as questionable, Malik Beasley is listed as questionable, and Ricky Rubio is listed as questionable. So depending on Whichever of those guards are in, I'm going to like them. If they're all in, I'm going to have a little less interest, of course. But if one or two of them are in, I would like them a lot more. And then, of course, Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards are like my top options. If D'Angelo Russell's back, it's going to hurt their usage a little bit, but he'll probably be limited, so he won't play as many minutes. But it will hurt their usage a little bit. But great matchup taking on Sacramento. Best matchup you could possibly ask for. Love Karl-Anthony Towns. Love Anthony Edwards. Both of these guys, get them in your lineups and feel really confident about them. De'Aaron Fox on the Sacramento side at 9-2. Going to love him. Rashawn Holmes, Halliburton. I mean, it's just like you can't go wrong with guys in this game. Of course, you can only play a certain amount of guys in each lineup that you play because, I mean, not every single guy is going to have the biggest tournament-winning game. However, with some of these games being so slow-paced and dreadful, you know, I wouldn't mind being pretty overexposed to this game. Process of elimination is just a much better environment. So, love all those guys. Get him in your lineups. Harrison Barnes at 6'3" at the power forward position, a great play. Low 6K range, plays a ton of minutes, can definitely get you there at that price tag, taking on this Minnesota squad. Buddy Hield, you know, literally anyone you want in this game. Pretty good about McDaniels, priced up to 5K on now on the Minnesota side because he's seen 21 and then 35 minutes last time. I put up 32 DraftKings points. If he continues to see a bunch of minutes, if there's no Ricky Rubio, Millie Beasley, and D'Angelo Russell, in no Noel, you know, maybe he becomes a great play if he's starting. And yeah, just feel real good about this game overall. Definitely be playing some guys from the Sacramento-Minnesota game. Last game on the slate, Phoenix taking on Houston. Devin Booker comes with a 9K price tag. This game comes in with a 12-point spread in favor of the Phoenix Suns. Once again, an ugly game. It's going to be slower paced, and Phoenix is expected to win this one very easily. There is no John Wall. There is no Eric Gordon. Daniel House Jr. is listed as questionable. He had a head out last game. So Kevin Porter Jr., Jayshawn Tate, Kelly Olynyk, all these guys on the Houston side should continue to see a bunch of usage. The problem is Phoenix is very good defensively. So, I mean, while these guys are going to get a bunch of usage and opportunity, not really the fastest paced game and not the best matchup. So pick and choose who you're really looking to in this one carefully. I think Kelly Olynyk becomes a much better play at 5'8". If there is no Daniel House Jr. in this one, he gets more minutes. He's a good fantasy point per minute producer, and he's only 5'8", so cheaper price tag compared to these other guys that are priced up in the game. And then maybe even a KJ Martin at 3'5", becomes a much more viable play, needing him some more minutes. So, but as far as the Phoenix side is concerned, Chris Paul, you could argue a little bit of a revenge narrative taking on the former Houston team, and I just like him the most out of anyone on the Phoenix squad overall anyways, because on-ball dominant, a lot of assist opportunities, a lot of scoring opportunities like him. I like him more than Devin Booker specifically just because of that exact reason. I think Devin Booker's a little more off-ball, a little less opportunity, and he's a lot more scoring dependent than Chris Paul is. Chris Paul will get you some steals as well, so I like him. And that is my overall breakdown of the 7-game slate. Before I let you guys go, I got to give you my lock of the night. Let's get into it. And my lock of the night tonight is going to be Gary Trent Jr. at this 6'6" price tag, taking on this Washington squad. I mentioned his role in the Toronto team is ever expanding. There is no Kyle Lowry, and I would expect that there's going to be no Fred VanVleet, and for that reason, I'm going to love Gary Trent Jr. Recently playing 38, 36, and 30 minutes the last 3 times out, putting up 32, 40, and 40 DraftKings points. And if you take away Fred VanVleet from the equation, his usage is just going to go up even more. On top of the fact that he's taking on the Washington Wizards, of course, we always like that matchup. Love Gary Trent Jr. tonight, and he is my lock of the night. So there you have it, guys. Gary Trent Jr. Get him in your lineups, and that is all for me in this one. If you did enjoy the content, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. I would greatly appreciate that, and I wish you guys all the best of luck. Don't forget to check out my KJK DFS packages, link below in the description. If you're interested, I do have an MLB DFS package, an NBA DFS package, all the above. If you're getting serious about DFS, I would highly recommend them. And yes, best of luck to you guys tonight. We'll see you in the next one.